Good morning. My name is Dave Lyon. I am a designer for General Motors. Sounds like an AA meeting. Right. I've worked for General Motors for almost 20 years, and really the entire time, very proud to be part of that team, to be part of that company. I can't say that I've always been proud of the cars that we've made, and that's sobering and hard to admit, but it's true. And for, I'd say, the first 12 or 13 years of working there, working for a company that did not value design. It valued ease of manufacturability. It valued cost on keeping that as low as possible. You know, design was something, and the designer's role was really just to kind of wrap the present in the end. And I think you've all probably had clients like this that came to you with something that really wasn't very good and said, here, now make this look good. And those are not satisfying jobs. But there has been a change. I get two questions a lot. One is, how are you doing? Are you okay? My standard answer is, I'm not sure. And the other question I get is, well, you know, do you think there's really going to be true cultural change? To be honest, the cultural change really started a while back. It just wasn't as institutionalized as I think any of us would like. But over the last, I'd say, 8 years or so, we have made the conscious decision to be a design-driven company. Unfortunately, it takes so long to produce a vehicle, and our timelines are the same as anybody else's. When you think about the miracle that when you buy a car, it starts every time and doesn't explode, and you can survive a crash and everything that you can do, there's an awful lot of testing that goes into making these things as seamless as they are. The story I'm going to talk about today is really the story of this car, the Chevrolet Volt. And it has a very special mission for us. It is an electrically driven car. We'll start where every good product design project should start, and that is with the customer. The goal here is to be the most successful, the highest volume electrically driven vehicle, which would be quite a trick. And the mistake often made is to take anybody who's interested in this sort of thing and lump them all into one category. Oh, okay, this is a car for environmentalists. And we're not going to be as successful if that's the only way we think about it. So, I mean, there's a lot of different motivations. There is environmental responsibility. There are some people that if we can make the financials work, they'll really just be in it for the money. And that if we have a vehicle that operates, let's say gas is a little over $3 a gallon, 1/6 the cost of running a vehicle on gasoline, that's a pretty good deal. There are some people that are just in it for the fashion. That's the hot thing to have. I mean, they may very well have been the people that were buying Escalades a few years ago, and now this is the thing to have. I make no judgments. There's no bad reason. There are some people that are in it for the technology and the love of it, and that it is what is new, and people that want to be on the leading edge. And there are some people that are really all about energy independence, and I think as you heard in the elections last year, you know, people that don't like giving money to other countries that don't like us. So I asked the team to put this together to get a picture of the most Republican-looking person they could find. Not an actual person. I think they did a pretty good job. So I mean, design had this intense focus on the customer and their motivations. And obviously, we want to be able to reach all those people, which means that that third leg of the stool, right? Solve problems, make the world better, and make it look good. All right? If we can have a compelling visual story, an object that people really wanted to have, we could do more good. So we're focused on that. I know that from the work that we did with our own engineers, they were focused really on two things: keep the electrical draw to a minimum and make sure that this is as low mass as possible. Both of those things will pretty much spoil the deal because you'll have something that won't get very far from a range standpoint. So the design brief looked something like this. Design an electric car that uses as little energy as possible. eliminates range anxiety. It had to look revolutionary, and yet it had to drive and operate like a regular car. So, how exactly does this Volt work? Well, it is a vehicle that has a battery. That battery will drive the vehicle for 40 miles. At that point, you don't walk home. At that point, a small onboard gasoline engine will recharge the battery, but at all times the vehicle is being driven by the electric motor. And it plugs into a standard household 120 or 240 if you want to set your garage up that way. For those of you like me that require a picture, it looks more like this. That big blue T in the middle is the lithium-ion battery pack, similar to your laptop. And you can see there is an electric drive unit and there is a small engine to charge the battery when that's out. Now, 40 miles, why 40 miles? Well, we did some research and found that that was kind of the sweet spot to get most people. Because obviously the idea here is it may have the onboard engine, but wouldn't it be great if you never had to run it? And so we looked at this and said, okay, after 40 miles, you get a point of diminishing return where you'd have to make the batteries even bigger. The vehicle gets heavier. The vehicle has to get bigger. And that didn't seem very smart. So, and then of course, if you keep it under 40 miles per trip, you really don't ever have to stop and get gas ever again, which is great. You just plug it at home. You plug in off-peak hours and get a pretty good deal on this. How good of a deal is it? Well, we did our own comparison of annual energy use, and if you kept it to 40 miles, it'd be somewhere in between a clothes dryer and a water heater, less than a fridge in the house. So that's seems to make pretty good sense. Now, you know, there's often a lot of confusion about this. That okay, this is a hybrid like a Prius. No, not exactly. Yes, it has both an electric motor and it has an internal combustion engine, but it really is just the scope of this. And to put it kind of in perspective for you, most mid-sized family cars, like a Toyota Camry, the city cycle from the EPA says it's about 22 miles per gallon, right? Considered pretty good. Prius really was a game changer for Toyota. And that the new one, the third generation, gets 51 miles per gallon, which is, you know, a huge leap. And I got to say that, you know, for those of us at General Motors, when we saw the second generation Prius, the first generation was kind of a Japanese market oddity, and it was kind of a curiosity here in the States. But the second generation really was a far more serious product and far more successful. And I'm sure we had the same sort of reaction that people in the 50s had when Sputnik went up by the Russians, kind of a, oh shit, you know, what are we going to do, right? And we could put our satellite up too, or we could go to the moon. So we do internally kind of joke about this vehicle being our moonshot, but it had to be a significant leap. You know, you don't want to show up late and just match. So in this particular case, we put this through the EPA tests and came out with a number of 230 miles per gallon, which is a really good number. I'm not saying I know exactly how that works, but it is a number that holds up and we advertise it. Now, that's great, but if nobody likes the car, then we're not really doing any good. And we did talk to a lot of owners of hybrids, and they have great affection for their vehicle, no doubt, you know, because it is doing good. You know, do you love your Prius? Absolutely. Do you like the way it looks? Well, I like that it looks different than other things on the road, but it's more appliance than I'd like. So we did put a lot of time and effort into making sure that this was a good-looking car. You can see here my preference is in black. I find that very handsome. And a very dramatic, compelling interior. And really, I'm going to talk about the interior more than anything.